Here is the honest truth most folks never hear. There are 11 SUVs out there that will roll right past 200,000 miles and keep on going if you treat them halfway decent. Not because some brochure says so, but because the odometers say so, out in the real world, on real roads, with real families piling in and out of them for 15 and 20 years at a stretch. Now, some SUVs can fly down a highway, crawl over rock, and wade through water up to the door handles. That is a fine party trick. But the real question, the one that keeps money in your pocket, is which of these things can actually go the distance. I am talking 200,000 miles or more, the kind of number that used to be a funeral and is now, in the right vehicle, just a well-worn friend that still starts every morning. There is real data behind this, not just an old man's opinion. A study by a company called IC Cars went through more than 11.8 million cars sold in 2020, sorting out which models best showed real longevity, which ones had the highest share still on the road past that 200,000 mile mark. I am going to count them down for you, from the top of the list down to the single toughest one of them all. But before we get rolling, let me tell you who is doing the talking. My name is Ray Donnelly, and for 50 years I have turned wrenches on every kind of car there is, watching honest people get talked into repairs they never needed. So if that is the sort of thing you want more of, consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. So pour yourself a coffee, get comfortable, and let me walk you up this list one truck at a time, starting at number 11 and working down to the champion. Number 11 is the Lexus GX, and if you have never sat in one, let me paint the picture. It is a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado underneath the fancy badge, body on frame, built in the same stubborn tradition as the trucks near the top of this very list. Longevity studies and Toyota's own long record put this thing well above the average SUV for still running strong past 200,000 miles, and I have seen plenty do it without breaking a sweat. The reason is simple. It uses an old-school naturally aspirated V8, no turbos to cook themselves, a proper transmission with a real torque converter, and a frame you could tow a house with. There is nothing clever in there trying to be clever. Clever is what breaks. Now let me tell you what I have watched under the lift for 30 years. The engines that die young are the ones with 100 little turbo hoses, plastic timing components, and computers running 3 systems at the ragged edge to squeeze out 1 more mile per gallon. The GX has none of that. That 4.6-liter V8 and the 4.7 before it will idle in your driveway at 300,000 miles and still not burn a drop of oil between changes if you actually change it. The GX is deliberately boring, and boring is exactly what you want when you are counting on $300 parts instead of $3,000 surprises. Keep the fluids fresh. Feed it a proper timing service on schedule. Do not ignore the little stuff, and this luxury barge will outlive most of the people who laughed at how thirsty it is. My advice on any used one: pull the differential and transfer case plugs and change that gear oil the day you buy it, because the fellow before you almost certainly never did, and clean oil in those cases is the cheapest insurance money can buy. Number 10 is the Honda Pilot, and I put it here to give the Toyotas some honest company. Hondas earn their reputation the hard way, mile after mile. The Pilot runs a smooth 3.5-liter V6, Honda's J-Series, and that engine is a genuine gem, one of the better V6 designs ever to come out of any factory anywhere. When it is looked after, it simply refuses to quit. Here is the mechanic's honest caveat, and I will never sugarcoat it for you. That V6 uses a timing belt, not a chain, so you have got to replace it around every 100,000 miles, and while the cover is off, you do the water pump at the same time because the labor is already paid for. Do that one job on schedule, and the engine is close to bulletproof. skip it, and a snapped belt will bend your valves and turn a good truck into scrap. The other thing to watch is the transmission fluid. Honda automatics live a long, happy life on fresh Honda fluid and a much shorter one on neglect, so drain and fill it every 30,000 miles and forget the myth about lifetime fluid, because lifetime just means the life of the transmission, which is shorter when you ignore it. Do those two things, and these family haulers routinely cross 200,000 miles with the original engine still humming along. It sits a notch below the leaders on the survival charts, mostly because it is a car-based unibody built for the school run rather than a rock crawl. But do not let that fool you. For a family that wants 3 rows, decent gas mileage, and a repair bill that will not make you cry, the Pilot is one of the smartest used buys on the road. Parts are cheap, every corner shop in America knows how to fix one, and that matters more than folks realize when the warranty is long gone. Now we get into the original heavy hitters, the ones I see cars actually ranked, and we start at number 9 with the Lincoln Navigator. This is a hulking full-size truck-based luxury SUV, a living room on wheels with a long list of comforts and a body built like a bank vault. 2.6% of them were still running strong after the 200,000-mile mark. Now the reliability ratings are a mixed bag, I will be straight with you, but here is the part the snobs miss. It is not expensive to keep alive. RepairPal puts the average yearly repair and maintenance cost below average for its class, and owners only drag it in for an unplanned repair about once every 30 months. That is not bad for something this big and this plush. Strong engine, reasonably priced parts, and a whole lot of truck underneath. That is because under all the leather and wood trim, the Navigator is really a Ford truck, and Ford truck parts are on the shelf at every auto store from here to the coast. The one honest weak spot I will warn you about is the air suspension. Those big luxury rigs ride on airbags at the corners, and after a decade the bags dry out and start to sag or leak, and the compressor works itself to death trying to keep up. It is not the end of the world. You can rebuild it, or a lot of smart owners swap in a conventional coil spring conversion kit for a few $100s and never think about it again. Treat it like the workhorse it secretly is. Watch that suspension, and it will keep hauling the family in comfort long after the fancy badge stops impressing the neighbors. Number 8 is the GMC Yukon and its longer brother, the Yukon XL. These are the biggest SUVs GMC builds, and they got a major redesign back in 2015 that gave them chiseled looks, a nicely finished cabin, up-to-date technology, and slightly better fuel economy, though nobody buys one of these for the gas mileage. 3.5% of Yukons showed more than 200,000 miles when they changed hands in 2020, and another 0.2% had crossed 300,000. Let that sink in. 300,000 miles. The secret is the bones. It rides on a full-size pickup chassis, and it packs a standard 5.3-liter V8, making 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, enough to carry up to 9 people. That is truck DNA, plain and simple, and truck DNA is what survives. These engines were built by folks who understood that simple and stout beats fancy and fragile every single time. That 5.3 is a small block descended from a design GM has been refining since before I owned my first toolbox, and half the mechanics in the country can rebuild one blindfolded. If I am being a straight shooter, the one thing to keep an eye on with these GM V8s is the AFM system, the cylinder deactivation that shuts off half the engine to save fuel. On some of them it can get greedy with oil and give a lifter trouble down the road. Check the oil often, run the grade the manual asks for, and a lot of owners just install a simple disabler and never have a lick of trouble. Do that, and this Yukon will pass 250,000 miles, still pulling the boat every summer. Number 7 is the Toyota Highlander Hybrid, and it is the odd one out on this whole list, the only car-based unibody in the bunch. Toyota already has a reputation for building things that outlast their owners, and the hybrid Highlander somehow stretches that even further. 3.8% of these mid-size hybrids listed for sale in 2020 had already been driven past 200,000 miles. Now a lot of people hear the word hybrid and get nervous about the battery. Let me put that fear to bed. Toyota's hybrid system is one of the most proven setups ever built. The 2021 model pairs a 2.5-liter four-cylinder with a couple of electric motors and a continuously variable automatic front-wheel drive standard with all-wheel drive on offer, and it sips fuel at around 36 miles per gallon combined. That gentle electric assist actually takes strain off the gas engine and the brakes, so parts wear slower. Here is something most folks never think about. Because the electric motors do a big share of the slowing down through regenerative braking, the brake pads on a Toyota hybrid can last 2 and 3 times as long as the ones on a regular car. I have pulled hybrids apart at 150,000 miles and found the original pads with plenty of meat left. The gas engine runs on the Atkinson cycle, which is a gentler, cooler way of making power, and gentle is the whole ballgame when you want an engine to live forever. As for that battery everybody frets over, keep the vents behind the back seat clean and free of dust so it stays cool, and it will go the distance right alongside the rest of the truck. It is longevity with a fuel savings chaser, and I tip my hat to it. Number 6 is the Chevrolet Tahoe, and it is cut from the same cloth as the Yukon, mechanically related right down to the bones, which is exactly why it piles on the miles. 3.9% of used Tahoes sold that year had rolled past 200,000. The fourth generation showed up in 2015, and you could get it with a 5.3-liter V8 or a bigger 6.2-liter V8, both bolted to a 6-speed automatic. Rugged and dependable is the whole story here. This is one of the most popular police pursuit vehicles in all of America, used for patrol work, off-road duty, and towing, and police departments do not spend taxpayer money on trucks that fall apart. When a fleet mechanic who beats a vehicle half to death still trusts it, that tells you everything. And think about the abuse a patrol Tahoe takes, idling for 8 hours straight in the heat, hard stops, hard starts, loaded down with gear, and they still rack up the miles. That is durability you can bank on. Buy a used one, keep the oil clean, watch the same AFM oil habit I mentioned on the Yukon, since it is the same family of engine, and you have got yourself a tank. One more tip from the shop floor. On any of these full-size GM trucks, keep an eye on the brake lines and fuel lines underneath if you live where they salt the roads in winter, because rust on the lines is the one thing that will nickel and dime an otherwise immortal truck. A little undercoating goes a long way. Number 5 is the Toyota 4Runner. And folks, if I could only own one truck on this whole list, this might be the one. People call it nearly indestructible, and they are not exaggerating. It is built for serious off-roading, but behaves itself just fine as an everyday driver, seating up to 7 with 47 cubic feet of cargo room behind the second row. It is a mid-size, truck-based rig that the off-road crowd has loved for decades. An estimated 4.1% of the ones resold in 2020 had over 200,000 miles, and 0.2% were still going strong past 300,000. Toyota moves more than 130,000 4Runners a year in the States, and here is the kicker. Used ones hold their price like gold. There is a reason for that. It uses an older, proven engine with no turbo nonsense, a real transmission, and a frame that shrugs off abuse. The 4-liter V6 in these things and the newer 4-liter that followed are engines a mechanic loves to see because there is almost nothing to fix. No fancy variable this or electronic that trying to outsmart itself. Just a stout, low-stress motor turning a solid drivetrain. The one habit I will nag you about, same as always, change the fluid in the differentials and the transfer case, and if it is a 4-wheel drive, actually use the 4-wheel drive now and then to keep the seals happy. People let those systems sit for years and then wonder why something binds up. Grease the drive shaft fittings. Keep the frame clean if you are in salt country, and this truck genuinely does not care how many miles are on the clock. This is the truck you hand down to your kids, and they will hand it down to theirs. Number 4 is the Ford Expedition, a full-size, truck-based hauler that shares its platform and a lot of its guts with that Lincoln Navigator we talked about earlier. 4.9% of expeditions had been driven 200,000 miles or more, and 0.2% were still running past 300,000 according to those 2020 sales. Here is the thing to understand about this one. It is basically a Ford F-150 work truck wearing an SUV suit. Enormous passenger room, seating for 108 cubic feet of cargo in the standard version, a whopping 130.8 in the longer EL trim, and it will tow 9,300 pounds. The V8 went away in 2014 in favor of Ford's 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 paired with a 6-speed automatic. Now I will be honest, a turbo V6 asks a little more care than an old V8, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. Those two turbochargers make wonderful power, but they also make heat, and heat is the enemy of oil. So on an EcoBoost, you run good synthetic oil, and you change it a little sooner than the computer nags you to, especially if you tow, because dirty oil coking up in a turbo bearing is how you buy a turbocharger you did not want. Keep the cooling system honest, replace the coolant on schedule so it never turns acidic, and consider a fresh set of spark plugs a bit earlier than a V8 would need, since a boosted engine is harder on them. Do all that and the EcoBoost will haul your whole clan and a loaded trailer for years and years. It is a fine engine, it just wants an owner who pays attention instead of one who waits for the red light to come on. Number 3 is the Chevrolet Suburban, and this is American iron in its purest form. Body on frame, built on a platform that just does not know how to give up. According to IC Cars, it is among the most likely of anything to reach 200,000 miles, with 5.1% projected to hit that mark and 0.2% able to push beyond 300,000. Think of it as a longer, roomier Tahoe, and that extra length buys you real space. It comes with a standard V8 offered across 6 trim levels, best-in-class second-row legroom, a bigger third row than before, and best-in-class cargo volume. Consumer Reports gave it a 4 out of 5 predicted owner satisfaction rating, and 3/4 of Suburban owners said they would buy another one. When that many people who have actually lived with a vehicle would do it all over again, you are looking at a truck that earns its keep. And here is the beautiful part for a fellow watching his wallet. Because the Suburban shares so much with the Tahoe, the Yukon, and the pickups, every part on it is common as dirt and cheap as it gets. A water pump, an alternator, a set of brakes, you can get them anywhere, and any shop worth its salt can bolt them on in an afternoon. That is the quiet advantage of buying American iron that's sold by the millions. You are never held hostage by some special order part from across the ocean that takes 3 weeks and costs a fortune. This is the classic family expedition machine, and it has been for generations. Number 2 is the Toyota Sequoia, and now we are getting into rarefied air. This is Toyota's full-size, truck-based SUV, and a stunning 11.2% of the ones that changed hands in 2020 had beaten the 200,000-mile mark, with 0.4% reaching 300,000 or more. Do the math on that. At around 15,000 miles a year, that is roughly 17 to 20 years of faithful service out of one truck. Rugged, with plenty of cargo and interior room for packing the whole family in for the long-haul trips. The reason it lasts is the same reason the 4Runner and the Land Cruiser last. Toyota built the Sequoia around a proven, unstressed engine and a heavy-duty drivetrain, then resisted the urge to complicate it. Many of these run the same family of iron-tough Toyota V8 you find in the Tundra pickup, an engine that thinks 200,000 miles is barely broken in. There is a reason you see old Tundras and Sequoias with 250,000 miles on them still working construction sites every day. You maintain it, it maintains you. Simple as that. Keep the oil clean, service the transmission, and do not let anybody talk you into thinking a truck this stout is somehow used up just because the odometer rolled over a big number. And now, number 1, the king of the whole mountain, the Toyota Land Cruiser. Planned obsolescence is a dirty little habit all over this industry, building things to fail just after the warranty runs out. But not the Land Cruiser. This thing was genuinely built to last, and the numbers prove it in a way that leaves everything else in the dust. 16.3% of the Land Cruisers sold in 2020 had lasted more than 200,000 miles. Compare that to the segment average of about 1%, and you understand what you are looking at. It is 16 times more likely than the typical SUV to reach that milestone. And 1.5% of them are predicted to blow right past 300,000 miles. This truck stayed true to the original mission of what an SUV was ever supposed to be: real sport and utility with genuine durability and serious off-road ability. There is no gimmick here. There is just decades of stubborn, honest engineering that refused to cut corners. So there is your list, 11 SUVs that treat 200,000 miles like a rest stop instead of a finish line. Now let me leave you with the part that actually matters, the part no shiny brochure will tell you. Even a truck from the High Mileage Club needs looking after. Not one of these vehicles reaches those numbers by accident or by neglect. They get there because somebody changed the oil on time, flushed the coolant and the transmission fluid before it turned to sludge, and did not ignore a little squeak or a small leak until it turned into a big expensive one. That is the whole secret, and it is not really a secret at all. Pick the right truck off this list, keep up with the boring scheduled maintenance, and you will not be shopping for a new vehicle every 5 years while the dealer laughs all the way to the bank. You will be the fellow driving the same paid-off SUV past 200,000 miles, waving at everybody else stuck making payments. That is how you keep your money where it belongs, in your own pocket. Take care of the truck, and the truck will take care of you.